What's going on, guys? Josh here with Buckeye Bowhunter. This month is flying by. It was literally like just October 1st. It's about 4 o'clock now, so I'm gonna get moving and get set up and hopefully get some action tonight, so stay tuned. So I just got all set up. It's just about 5 o'clock right now. The neighbors driving around with a four-wheeler up and down the property line. Everybody wants to complain about how much pressure and whatever is on public land and how tough it is, but try hunting these small properties in northeastern Ohio. And it just never stops. It's every day. It's every single day. It's something, you know. I spent 40 minutes trimming this tree out, hanging this stand. Got really good wind cover. I was really quiet the whole time. And just as I'm stepping into my stand and getting stuff ready, he drove down the edge of the corn here and he stopped back behind these willows, did something for 10 minutes. I could hear him idling. It sounded like he just kind of took off, so maybe these deer won't mind it. We'll see. I'm all set up now. It's a pretty cool spot. This is a stand I've hunted in this tree years ago, maybe 4 or 5 years ago. It was probably the last time I was in this tree. Call it the willow stand. I killed a really nice 8-pointer. It was the first deer I ever self-filmed back in like 2014 or 2012 or something like that, out of this tree on Halloween night. It's pretty cool. But tonight I got in here because Friday I had a south wind Friday and I hunted the other end of this field down by where I parked. And I watched like 5 or 6 bucks walk out right underneath this willow tree into the corner of this bean field. And it's hard to tell from up here, but those beans are still kind of green. There's still a lot of green in there. And right here, there's a couple main trails that come out right underneath me, kind of crisscrossing through this grass. And it is just mowed down right here where these trails come out, which tells me these bucks are most likely using this a lot. And I wanted to give this at least one sit before these beans brown up, because they are going to brown up quick. And then we got this real tall, thick grass. It's like up to my chest almost, between here and a big block of woods where I think these deer are probably bedded. There's some real thick stuff in here along the edge of this swampy, grassy stuff that I think these deer are bedded in. Right in the shade. It is a warm day. It's like 70 degrees. It's supposed to be like 60 or 58 or something like that by the time it gets dark. So the temperature will drop. We're gonna sit tight and see what happens. We got a couple hours here, so. And this was the moment my deer hunt was over. She busted me. Good Lord. She just would not stop. I ended up just kind of like waving my arms at her to get her to freaking leave. She was so pissed. She was like blowing bubbles out her nose while she's snorting. Dang, that sucks. That's the first time I've been busted like that in a long time. It might be why I haven't sat in this stand for so long. I may have forgot. We'll see what happens. We still got about a half hour here, so might as well stick it out. Bummer. Got a south wind again, and here in northeastern Ohio, these south winds usually bring warm weather. We got just that. It was about 72 degrees, I think it hit for a high today. Right now it's sitting at like 68. It's supposed to get down to like 60 by this evening. It's pretty breezy, pretty windy today. Got a lot of wind noise. So I think I'm gonna try and use it to my advantage and get a little crazy. I brought some Rattling antlers with me today and a grunt tube, so I may try and use those come this evening. I'm gonna slip in here and see if I can't find anything that looks good enough for me to hang a tree stand up. I'm on this little, you could almost call it an island. And out at the tip of this, it gets real thick. And I have scouted this in like January and February. In the last few years, it's been destroyed with rubs. This is the bedding area where Jack Sparrow and that big 8-pointer keep walking out of every once in a while, maybe once a week. They come walking out of this bedding area. I got a camera out here about 100 yards that keeps picking them up, getting in here super tight with this wind. This wind cover is perfect. That little button buck I got in here, he was bedded within 60, 70 yards of me. Had no clue I was in here. That's making me feel real good. If that buck is bedded out at the tip of this, I think we are in business. Got a south wind. It's kind of blowing straight out this way. A big swamp is out to our west and kind of circles around to the south of us. This, like I said, this is kind of like an island. And then we got beans and pumpkins and all kinds of crop fields out to the east of us. So if this buck works his way through here, if he's in here, we're gonna have a shot at him tonight. So while I'm sitting here, I had one of my subscribers ask, what my thoughts were on calling, grunting, and rattling. Since the rut is fast approaching, in about 2 weeks, we're going to be in the thick of it. Try to keep my head on a swivel and talk a little bit. I'm all for calling. I just really limit my calling to specific situations when I think they're actually going to work. It's really important, to make sure that you're not out there just banging antlers together and hitting the grunt tube as loud as you can every time you sit somewhere. Those deer are going to get smart really quick. Deer are so good at, putting 2 and 2 together, if that makes sense. If you rattle to a big buck and you're in a bad location, that allows him to kind of get downwind of you and pick you off and, bust you. You're probably not going to see that deer again the rest of the season. So I really pick and choose, when I call. I think it's a dynamite tool. I think it works. I've killed several big deer using a grunt call. I've called in multiple deer, using rattling horns. Over the years, I've really fine-tuned how I call and when I call. That now when I do it, if I decide to call, I'm either calling to an animal. A lot of time with my grunt call, I'm only going to pull that out if I see a deer and that deer's not moving towards me. If he's working away from me, I might throw a couple grunts out, or a long tending grunt depending on the time of the year. Or if it's a situation that I think I have the upper hand in if I want to call, which is kind of what I'm in tonight. And I'll get into that. Let's kind of talk a little bit about grunting first with a grunt call. So this is the grunt call I use. It's a Woodhaven Pro Stinger grunt tube. And this grunt tube I carry with me probably up until like the 23rd of October. This is a really super realistic grunt call, in my opinion. It's kind of quiet. Has with this little tube, you can give it any tone, any sound you want, but it sounds so realistic. I'm not going to blow it right now, but it's kind of quiet. This is not a call that I'm going to use to reach out 100 yards at a cruising buck across the field. This is a call that I'm going to use, like a night like tonight, where I'm in a really thick area and that deer can't see very far. Maybe he's 50 yards from me. I can let out a couple contact grunts and see if I can get him to work my way. During the rut, I usually carry like one of those Primo's buck roars. It's a much louder, more aggressive toned grunt call that can kind of reach out a little further. Usually if I got a buck, I don't care what time of year it is, and he's going the opposite way and I want to shoot him, I'm going to throw a couple grunts at him just to see what he does, I got no problem with doing that. Most of the time, you're going to get that deer to react to this grunt call or even rattling horns. He's gonna hear you, he's going to stop, he's going to look. What makes the difference between like stopping that deer and having him like circle downwind, or him like hold up at 100 yards, like staring off in your direction, and actually killing him, is stand location and what you got going on around you. If you're in a big open hardwood setting and you hit those rattling horns or you hit that grunt call at a buck, he's 150 yards, he's going to turn and look. And if he doesn't see any deer, he's going to be pretty suspicious and probably hold up or go the other way. He might circle downwind and bust you, but I promise you he's not going to walk right in and let you shoot him. You know, you could get lucky obviously sometimes, but really you need something that kind of impedes that deer's vision if I'm going to be calling to a deer and have any chance of like killing him realistically. It's just like turkey hunting. You know, you're not going to sit in an open field and call to a gobbler because he's going to stare out in that open field and not see any turkeys. That's why we got decoys, right? If he can't see that hen, he's going to hold up and he ain't coming in. He's going to wait for her to show herself. Well, deer are the same way. So tonight, I am in a real thick, up next to a really thick bedding area. And on the ground, you can't see more than 40, 30 yards. This is a perfect calling scenario, which I'll get into in a minute. But first, I want to talk about like kind of my thoughts on rattling. Rattling, I got a couple antlers with me here. I usually use real antlers. I'm not a big fan of like the big synthetic antlers that you can get at like Dick's Sporting Goods or Walmart or something. And I'm not really a fan of the rattling bags. I don't think they sound realistic. I'm a big fan of like real antlers, and you know, the two I got are two like decent sized sheds. They work pretty well. They sound pretty good. And the thing about rattling for me is I don't rattle very often. Even during the rut, I don't rattle a lot. I don't like carrying antlers in with me all the time. And I don't think it works very well. The later into the season you get, even like when it comes to, you know, everyone's got their vacation set, you know, November 1st or whatever, or mid-November. By that point, I think these bucks have been rattled at so much, especially where I'm at in northeastern Ohio. All these properties have 2 or 3 guys hunting them. The time I like to rattle is this time of year. What I'm trying to emulate, I'm not trying to emulate, you know, 2 big mature bucks in a knockdown, drag-out war over a doe, you know, crashing and breaking limbs and making a ton of racket. I'm trying to emulate, you know, 2 younger bucks maybe sparring, which happens all the time. Everybody talks about the October lull right now. I think these bucks are way more active than people give them credit for. I think the October lull a lot of times is, you know, how the deer are reacting to hunting pressure, how they're reacting to food sources changing, how they're reacting to, you know, switching their core areas to fall habitat. All of those things together kind of combined make deer, just make them do different things than they've been doing for the last 2 months, you know. And I think that gets misconstrued as the October lull and that the deer aren't doing anything because you're not getting them on camera and you're not seeing them where you've seen them all summer. The deer are still there. They're doing deer things. And one of those things is figuring out the pecking order, strengthening their necks, practicing fighting for when the real rut happens. I got pictures this year of 2 smaller bucks sparring on camera. So if it's happening out here in the woods, why can't you try it? In a situation where I'm at now, you know, most people who have hunted this year haven't rattled. I want to be the first guy to rattle and trick that buck in my area. You know, this ain't Texas. Rattling, I think I have probably a 10% success rate. Every time I rattle, that I probably, you know, if I rattle 10 times, I might call in 1 buck. So I want to be really picky. When I do it, I want to make sure that I have a pretty good opportunity of actually harvesting the deer that I'm rattling at. You know, if I'm out here rattling all the time, if anything, I think I'm going to mess up more hunts than I am going to be successful. So I'd rather not do it. But in a night like tonight, when I'm up really tight to a bedding area, I got in here, it's super thick. I'm pretty sure that buck, if he's in here, he's bedded 100 yards from me. It's a little warm out. I wouldn't imagine these deer would be moving, you know, especially a mature buck would be moving until really close to dark, if not after dark. I'm going to give it about 15 minutes here when we got about a half hour left shooting light. I'm going to tickle these horns together, It's not going to be crazy loud. It's not going to be very long. And I'll show you how I kind of do it. You know, and I think something like this only works if you're close to his bedding area, you're in his zone. You know, if you're 200 yards from that buck and you hit those horns together, you know, you really can't expect him to get up and come see what's going on. There we go. There's a deer. I did that second rattling sequence about 10 minutes ago, and that buck came right in. He wasn't a shooter or nothing, but year and a half old buck. But he came right in, right to the base of my tree, and then he smelled me. Rattling, grunting, it all works, but it has to be used as a tool, not as a crutch. Too many guys sit out in the woods and just blow on their calls all day long every time they're in the woods. It's not going to make up for, you know, bad woodsmanship, bad stand locations, no scouting. It's not going to make up for any of that. It can be the icing on the cake that puts it all together and puts a deer in your lap, but you got to do everything right first. So, appreciate you guys tuning in. Hope that answered your questions. And we'll see you guys on the next one.